Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Empowered for Balance. I'm so happy to have you join us today. And today we're talking about gut health. We're talking about how our gut health affects our wellness mentally, physically, as women. And I have Melanie Sessa joining us. I'm happy she got the time off her busy schedule to join us today. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Very good. Amma, thank you so much for having me. So nice to be here.
Yep, I'm happy to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you live?
Yeah, so I live about an hour north of New York City. Was born and raised there, only left for when I went away to college. And my background is in marketing. I was in corporate marketing for many years in New York City. After having kids, I decided to stay home. And I am not a 100% stay at home mom type of gal. I learned when my son, who is now 20, was 18 months old, I started in the network marketing industry. So I've been growing different businesses there, developing leaders, and just having a great time helping people in different ways, and having that flexibility to be able to balance, family and work responsibilities. We now have 3 children, ages 20, 17, and 12. And I'm still growing businesses from home, so which is really great. I was able to do that.
Yeah, it's great how you're able to do something from home, even with your kids. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we spoke about we talked the other day, you had mentioned gut health, and that really was interesting to me. And I thought that the woman who watched this show and listened to the podcast will be, could use that information, because I learned a lot. So first of all, what is gut health? What is all this about?
Yeah, so that seems to be the word now, right? Gut health, and it's people are talking about it. So your gut is not just your stomach; it's not just your intestines. It is the full range of your esophagus down to where you excrete. I mean, it is everything, and it's such a vital part of our body. It's one of the two areas that has direct contact to the outside world. Your skin being one, and your gut is the other. So everything that we do, whether it's our environment or our food, everything affects our gut health. And then our gut is actually the center of our both mental and physical wellness. And I
Mm.
think that was surprising for most people. It was surprising for me when I learned it. But knowing that and learning, strategies to optimize the health of the gut and the gut brain connection and the gut skin connection and the gut heart connection is really, really important.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned our gut is the center of our mental wellness. Can you unpack that a little bit more for us?
Absolutely. So we have about, not to be too sciencey, because I'm not a scientist, but we have about a 100 trillion bacteria in our gut. That's more than all the stars in the galaxy. So there's a
Wow.
lot going on there. And that collection of bacteria and that balance of bacteria will either excrete or produce, I should say, really good hormones and chemicals, or ones that are not really detrimental. So for example, neurotransmitter like serotonin. We've all heard that word before.
Yeah.
Serotonin, happy hormone. But did you know that 95% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut? So creating a healthy gut environment through lots of different strategies will allow that bacteria to produce high levels of serotonin, which will help our mood, our energy, our focus, our sleep, our overall performance. It's an exciting scientific discovery, and that's why science has been calling the gut the second brain, because of that communication between the gut and the brain. We have something called the vagus nerve that connects the two. So when you create that high level of serotonin and dopamine and GABA, all these neurotransmitters that affect our mood, energy, and focus, you need a way to get that up to your brain too. So these two, your brain and your gut, are constantly communicating. And here's a fun fact. When we were being created in our mom's womb, our gut and our brain were the same ball of cells. So they've always been speaking to each other. And during when we were developing, they separated, but they're always been connected. So those two work together to create a healthy mental wellness, focus, mood, energy, all of that.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And I like the explanation. You make it very simple. So now let's talk a bit more. What's the difference between a healthy gut and a gut that's not healthy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So there's a term called gut dysbiosis, which means it's off balance. And when your gut is off balance, what that actually means is that the amount of bad bacteria is more than the good bacteria. Now you need both for sure. You need more good than bad. It's a very simple explanation. And what happens when you don't is, number one, those neurotransmitters aren't produced at those high levels. So it affects your mood and your energy, your focus and balance. But also 80% of the population, 80% have leaky gut without even knowing it. And leaky gut produces skin issues like eczema, rosacea, acne, psoriasis. It also produces autoimmune reactions. So many autoimmune diseases can be traced back to gut imbalance. And so producing that healthy gut with to help create a lining of the gut that is strong and not allowing those minuscule particles to go out and into the bloodstream is very important. And that's what a healthy gut does. It's like a brick wall.
Yeah.
When that brick and mortar is solid, those particles aren't going to get out. But when it opens up a little bit because it's off balance, that's when you have your problems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you mentioned off balance. So what can we do as a woman
Yeah,
to,
question.
yeah.
And you've heard these kinds of recommendations before. We know these things. But number one, what are we eating? What are we putting in our body, right? Things like sugar is the most toxic thing that you can put in your body. We love it. I used to be a sugar addict. And actually your cravings are because that bad bacteria wants that sugar. That's what it is. So when you're able to fix your gut, that ends. My sugar cravings are gone. So I can't eat that one cookie and be fine, which was never me before. So creating a healthy diet of, the fruits and vegetables, lean meats, carbohydrates that are complete carbohydrates, complex, and the sugar, gluten, dairy, for some people, eggs is a bad thing for gut, that they're allergic to that. So things like that, but also your environment, the pollution in the environment and the toxic chemicals in our home get into our body. And that also affects our gut health. In addition to that, we need to be intentional about our health. Yes, food, yes, exercise is also important, but also what sort of supplements are you taking? Science has already shown specific strains of probiotics are very important to put in our body, not just a probiotic off the shelf, but you have to know what that particular strain is going to do in your body. And not many probiotics right now tell you what strain that they are.
Yeah.
Have two names and then a number. That number is the strain. And each of those strains does something completely different. And that's so important to know. So those are some of the strategies you can use. Plus, you know what? Your body needs rest. That's probably the cornerstone of your health is sleep. Give your body the chance to detox and rejuvenate. That's important too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you mentioned some very practical tips here.
Yeah.
And so for the busy woman out there who is struggling with, trying to keep her kids, with coronavirus going on, with all the uncertainty in this world. And, a lot of the people that I coach, because I coach women who are high achieving, busy women, or women who are just so busy that they can't even make time for themselves.
Yeah, I know.
What can we do to allow ourselves to focus a little bit more on doing these things, doing all the healthy stuff that you've mentioned, because it's easier said than done, you know?
What I have found in my own life and the people that I have the pleasure to work with is when we're in a community of women who are all doing the same thing, supporting their gut health and their health overall, we are tend to achieve our goals better, right? We're
Yeah.
keeping each other accountable. And so I have created a community with some other people that I work with that is able to do that. And we have a program that we put women on who want to do that. And it includes supplementation, nutrition, exercise, and but most importantly, just camaraderie and
Yeah.
because women thrive, I think for centuries have thrived, whatever that word is, on that. And so when we can do that, how much better are we? We can support each other because we all rise when we lift each other up.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree with you, the importance of community, because a lot of times we women like to isolate, thinking that we can do it all by ourselves, but having that support system makes it a lot easier for us. Yeah, yeah. What made you want to do this? Because I know you're very passionate about what you do.
So that's a really great question. So I mentioned before that marketing and business is my background. In 2002, someone very dear to us passed away from a really strange cancer, sinus cancer. And he was very young, in his 30s, and left a young family. And I grew up in the generation where it was all about fat-free, or if you're thin, that means you're healthy, diet soda. And what I learned when that person passed away, I went on my own health journey to just discover, why would someone so young get this crazy disease and leave a family? It really broke our hearts. So I just went on my own health journey, just wanted to discover things. And guess what? I learned that everything matters. What you put in your body matters. What you think about matters. What you surround yourself chemically. The people you surround yourself with matters. Right? They're going to either encourage you or sabotage you, not meaning to, but it can. So those things mattered. So that was my physical health journey. My mental health journey started several years ago when my father was diagnosed with dementia. He passed last month, and it was a terrible way to see someone you care about die. And so mental wellness, our brain health, how we think, and even how our brain functions became a passion of mine. And when I learned that the gut is connected to both of those, meaning, our mental wellness is connected to the gut, but also our physical wellness is connected to the gut, because 70% of our immune system is located in the lining of the gut, in that tissue. And that was, again, a aha moment for me. And so personally, I wanted that to change. But then, as you get older and your ideas about, what the impression you want to leave and the legacy you want to leave, I wanted to do something that would really be impactful for people. Obviously, we all need to make money, but what could I do that was really impactful and could really change people's lives? And so I fell in with the company I'm with now, Amari Global, the mental wellness company, and was able to use it as a tool as part of my passion.
So the other day when we spoke, you also mentioned stress hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's a good one.
So stress, when we think about stress and we think about the stress hormone, it's cortisol is the thing that we think about. Cortisol is a hormone that is released from our adrenal glands when we're involved in something that keeps us, stressed, that keeps us stressed. And what happens then is that cortisol pumps through your body. Now, when we have a situation, that fight or flight situation, that's a good thing, right? But when we're dealing with everyday stress, like the bills and the relationships and the kids and how am I going to get it all done and all of those things that we deal with all the time, we may not feel stressed, but our body is still pumping out that cortisol. Now, what happens over time is that cortisol affects everything, our thyroid function, our metabolism, and after a while, it will become what we call catabolic on every cell of your body, which means it'll destroy every cell of your body. So when you hear people say, oh, stress killed them, in a way, yeah. Because if we don't get a handle on how our body is dealing with stress, it could definitely cause a lot of health, mental and physical problems. So part of the gut's function with that is when we create those high levels of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, when those stressful situations come, we react differently because those neurotransmitters are like, oh, I'm good, I got this. So the cortisol doesn't pump out as much, right?
Yeah.
So that's very good for all of us. Then when you talk about women in menopause or post-menopause, when their hormones are supposed to be, are less excreted from their ovaries, those hormones, estrogen and progesterone, your adrenals are supposed to take over. But if your adrenals are still pumping out the cortisol, that's where you get those problems like the menopause problems, night sweats, moodiness, the hot flashes, things like that are because of that imbalance. The cortisol keeps pumping. The actual hormones that we need to regulate that are not pumping out. And so again, that gut health factor in those menopause symptoms that have to deal with stress is so important. So I'm 52, haven't had anything. It's crazy. I haven't had any symptoms at all because I've been really focused on my health. Now that's not to say everybody's going to have the same result as I will, but I've been focusing on my gut health for so long that I know I have those high levels. of neurotransmitters. Do I, fall off here and there? Absolutely. But then I go into a 3-day gut reboot and then start nourishing my gut again. And I'm really grateful because I have even people around me who have these symptoms. I just like, what? I don't even know what that feels like. How does that feel when you have a hot flash? And I feel badly for them. But, some people don't want to make the change and some people do want to make the change. And so we work
Yeah.
with who's willing, but there are solutions out there.
Wow. Well, I like the explanation that you give because I talk a lot about this stress hormones and everything, but never tied it to gut health, because usually, the self-care also helps. But if we can take care of our gut and increase our level of serotonin and all these good, hormones, and that's good. I mean, all these good neurotransmitters, and that's good. So, I think that you're doing very good work. Seriously. Yeah, I think it's awesome work that you're doing. And you also give us different perspectives of things that we could do as women to make our lives better and to live healthier lives because sometimes there's also a physical connection to our stress levels and a lot of women take that for granted you know and again, with what you're talking about, if we don't deal with that cortisol and all that, then that also puts us at risk of stress related diseases because of the increase in stress related hormones. So it's a whole connection.
Mhm.
But if we can build that barrier, like you're talking about, if we take care of our gut health and we can build that barrier of, how do I put it? It's like having the soldiers who are ready to fight whatever comes, then we don't have to even, go through that fight or flight mode over and over again because we already have a surplus or a huge amount of neurotransmitters that are going to help us fight these stress hormones. So I love everything about what you're talking about here.
Yes, and you explained it so well. It's just an amazing way that our bodies are designed, and I love how the fact that we can actually be preventative. We can start nourishing and doing these things today, even before we feel stressed or overwhelmed or anxious or depressed. We can do that today, even with our immune system being the lining of our gut. We can prime our immune system today so that when viruses and other things come, you'll have a better chance of fighting it off because
Yeah.
for it. So prevention is the key, right?
Yep. Yep. We don't have to wait for the trouble to hit because then you become more of like you're trying to find a solution. And sometimes at that point, it's too late.
You know what? You're right. When I talk to people, I said, you may have to invest in your health now, but what happens on the back end if you
Yeah.
have to pay to get your health back if you can?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And it's funny because I have that conversation a lot with the women who, always reach out to me and sometimes they don't want to invest in themselves and I'm like, "Hey, sometimes you don't see it because you haven't gotten to that point where you really really need it. But the earlier you do something, the better it is for you because then that way you're not going to cross over to the other side of it and get to the point where you need it in an emergency, you know."
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Right. It's like getting insurance, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Yep.
You have it when you need it.
Exactly. Yeah, that is awesome. I love every bit about everything you've spoken about. And I like the way you just simplified everything, and it's very explanatory. What are your last words for us?
So what I'm going to say, yeah, just having experienced a death, and we all experience death, is my father died at 80 years old. Okay, he's about 10 years ago when he was 70 is when this started to present itself. That's 20% of his life. Had he done things earlier in his life to be, wiser about food choices, wiser about nourishing his body, I could go on and on. 20% of his life maybe would have been not dealing with a debilitating condition like
Yeah.
dementia, which really taxed all of us. And that's fine. I'll care for my dad. But to lose 20% of your life when perhaps if you are preventative, you get ahead of the game and really nourish your body, what is that worth? What is 20% of your life worth? That's huge for me, right? So for the things that I invest in are the things that matter. My
Yeah.
health so that I can be there for my family, my friends, my mom when she comes to that, situation where she has to maybe need care, all of that. I just can't think of anything more important to invest in,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yep, I love that. What is important is what you invest in,
Yep.
and that is yourself. And again, you need to secure your health and wellness first before you can go and take care of other people. So that's awesome.
You know it,
Yeah,
self care first.
exactly. Awesome, awesome. Where can we find you? Because I'm fascinated. I want to read more about what you do. So where can we find you?
So you can find me on Facebook, Melanie H is in Harry Sessa. That's Sessa. And Melanie is spelled Melani. My parents had the great idea of dropping the E off, which makes it unique, but also hard to remember. Also on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and you can also Gmail, melaniesessa@gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome. I love this. And thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedule to join us and to, to teach us about gut health. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. And I hope this really resonates with women because we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I love it. Yep, yep. Hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button because that is how you're going to get notifications weekly when we upload new episodes. And in today's episodes, my key take home is that you need to invest in what is more important to you. And you are more important because you deserve wellness. You deserve to be well. You deserve to be strong mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically so that you can, have that energy and strength to take care of all the other things that are important to you as your kids, your family, your job, your company, whatever you're engaged in. So please invest in your wellness and take care of yourself physically. Take care of your gut. Make sure you're eating right, you're nourishing yourself, taking the right probiotics, drinking enough water, doing everything possible to get you that wellness that you deserve. Again, this is Brew, your life balance strategist, and thank you for sticking with us till the end. I hope to see you next week. Take care. Bye.